I would ask questions like, what does 6 months from now look like? What does 10 years from now look like? If I'm still doing this 6 months from now, 10 years from now, how will I be feeling? I don't know, but how would I suspect I'd be feeling? And the answer was, you'd feel like this is the master. The business is the master. How much money you're making is the master. You'd feel not in control. You wouldn't trust yourself, but you'd be too afraid to leave because you would have put so much evidence and sunk cost into how capable you are to do it. And you have responsibilities, man. And it is much easier to turn a speedboat than a cruise ship. And that might be where you're at right now. I will tell you right now, it's not impossible at all. And I stand by that. You have the answer to whatever problem you're struggling with right now inside your head. It's just buried behind a locked door under 2 inches of dirt. We're going to talk about something that happens all the time. I am working with people who are going through this all the time. And I'm going to try and be as quick to the point as possible because you can tell from the title of the video, you've gotten better at things. You worked your ass off. You're making more money. Why are you having less fun? So I have personally experienced this numerous times. There are several instances of me on the internet talking about walking away from a 6-figure take home that took me basically almost 15 years, like decade and a half to earn, like 13 years, something like that. With 3 young kids, a mortgage, some debt, and leaving that all, all the safety behind because the answer to the question was, can you reach your full potential here? It was no. The answer was no. And I got asked the other day, have you regretted that? Would you go back? And I was like, that hasn't even entered my freaking mind. Like, I cannot tell you how little I have thought about any of it, right? Let alone wanting to go back. And why bring that up in a video like this? Because what I'm about to share is going to sound way too fucking simple to you. It is going to sound way too simple, right? And if this is the first video of mine that you were stumbling on, I would recommend you watch a different one first because you are very likely to be sucked into the internet version of like, do I trust this person? Yes or no? And what I'm about to talk about, you are probably going to fundamentally disagree with because it sounds too goddamn simple. All right. And also, if you don't like swearing, you should probably leave. But if you are curious enough with it, I am telling you right now that you are capable, that you have the answer inside your head, and that you just can't fucking see it. And the reason you can't see it is because you don't trust yourself to see it. And if you don't like that, let me explain, because not only have I had this with my personal journey, right? Like, I have never felt more fulfilled in my life. And I've, regardless of whether I get a result or not, I left that comfortable salary, and I was only working 8 hours a week, by the way. And so I'm just one of those people where I need more meaning than the fucking paycheck, right? I need more meaning than the ease, even the quality of life. If the likelihood that you will vibe with this is probably going to be strongly correlated to you don't actually crave ease so much as you crave challenge, but worthy challenge, the right challenge. And you've been doing things that are challenging, but they're not fun, right? You've been getting rewarded for doing challenging things, but they're not fun. And that to me comes down to it can be any shades of gray, but they are all under this umbrella of, do I trust myself? So let me tell you a story. When I had the most successful financial year of my life after leaving, my take-home salary and making no money for 4 months, I finally created a working offer, right? And that working offer was basically creating a second agency, which is what I had left after 9 years of building. I was basically creating a mini agency because it's what I knew, and I didn't want it. Even so, because I'm capable, just like you, that offer was going to basically yield the same amount of money that took me a year to earn, or like a year to actually earn physically, and 10 plus years to actually get to that level of earnings. I was going to be able to do it in like 5 months. And I said no to a bunch of money because I saw what was happening. I was getting smarter for myself and saying, you know what? This is just going to create a life I despise. This is not going to be fun. And so I went into the literal wilderness. Was like, what the hell do I do? Turned into a community because I was kind of like, am I a coach? Am I a mentor? Am I a consultant? I have no fucking clue. All I know is that when someone's in front of me, I can help them usually. And so I struggled with the titles and all that, but I talk about that in other places. And so I got a community of people together, entrepreneurs, people going not from 0 to 1, I would say 1 to 2, and working on their offers, working on retention, which is something I'm one of the best in the world at in the marketing space anyway, or was. All that kind of stuff, right? Like client relationships, onboarding, all these things that would help them make more money without having to do the hustle bro funnel, without having to spend a ton on ads, without having to sell services that he didn't believe in. In fact, most of the people who came to me when I was helping with, let's call it business coaching, were reducing to what do I absolutely love to provide, and I'll just provide that. And then I will find a way to make that so banging that makes more money. So there may be an element of why you're not having fun being it's too complex. But I want to talk about trust, because when somebody came to me saying, I am struggling from these things, I'm actually really successful right now. I've never made more money, but I am working nights, holidays, weekends. I feel like if I want to do all this, I want to do public speaking, I want to launch a new product, I may even want to write a book, like all this kind of stuff. Amazing. Fucking ambition, right? The person I'm thinking in particular said on their very first call when they became a client was, I'm not a fucking sheep. It's like, I love that, right? Crazy talented, not having much fun. And it was because in all of our subsequent sessions from that, right, which is just one-on-one, I hold space for a capable person with the genuine belief that they have the answer inside of them. And so what I do is basically hold that space so they can be vulnerable as hell. And then I ask questions that reveal that answer for them, not have me tell them the answer. Because if you want to learn something, you don't want it to be given by somebody else. That's why I have issue if you are a capable person with seeking out a course, curriculum, or whatever. If you're looking for meaning, if you're looking for a skill, different, right? But if you are looking for it to solve the internal business problem, the internal mindset problem, the internal who do I want to be problem, it is just a shiny object, right? So they have its place. It's the meaning behind it. And this person came to me and said, I'm not an effing sheep. I'm doing the right things, all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, you absolutely are doing the right things. You know what the problem is that the filter you're passing all these things through is, does it seem like the right thing to do? And this is a very tiny distinction. Does it seem like the right thing to do? When I would have you say, does it feel right to me? Because you spend every second of your life with you. And I genuinely believe, I'll put a link to this video here, that there is an epidemic in civilization right now where people just don't trust themselves enough. So there's a vacuum there. What do they have to do? They have to outsource their trust to a course, to a coach, to a freaking balance in their checking account, to whatever. They have to outsource it and say, this is why I'm worth something, instead of looking inward. And so when I hold space for clients, as an example, I try and do this with anyone I encounter, but obviously that's the most formal way, is I more or less am trying to help them cultivate on their own via the space and via my questioning to understand that they are the best person to attack the thing they want, right? And in so doing, that filter gets so much sharper, right? In so doing, you stop asking questions like, what do I think will work? You stop asking questions like, what do I think I should do? What looks like the right thing to do? And you start looking inward and say, what feels right to me? If I love this, would I want to put it down? No. Okay. Well, I'm making money over here. Really successful. It feeds my family, all that sort of stuff. I can't possibly pick this thing up. Even though I don't love this, it pays the bills. I know I would love this, but I can't possibly pick it up because I can't see a way to make money from it right now. In which case you will have a ton of assets and be lost as hell, versus knowing exactly what you're meant for, and then you get to play with the problem of how to make money from it. Now, I am not saying if you have a family and you're like 100%, be responsible. This is not a diatribe on go be reckless. In fact, I've been very transparent about me leaving a comfortable salary and position to start at zero as being really freaking stupid on paper. Really, really stupid. Okay. But that is why I am so passionate about this, because that can be true. And it can also be true that I have never once at all thought about getting a job or if this fails or whatever. And you know why? Trust. I trust myself. I have never once thought, if this doesn't work out, I can then do. And I can say that with absolute purity. Never once thought that. To the point when I did have the community last year in 2025, we had an in-person retreat. And it felt different for one of these reasons. Kind of my point of view is that they ended up getting a lot more philosophy. They ended up getting a lot more like, listen, you can do anything you want. The foundational belief behind that is you're the one to do it. And so I knew a couple people in the community, had randomly checked LinkedIn. Well, hey, you know, what's going on with the jobs market, just in case. There is no just in case when you trust yourself. You cannot possibly see a way in which it doesn't work. You also do not need to see every single characteristic, tiny little detail of how it's going to work, because you trust yourself when the challenging thing comes that you are the best person to handle it in that moment. Right? I say to my clients all the time, you are not working with me for an easy life. An easy life means I know what my level is. I am comfortable here. I don't have any desire to grow. Please don't challenge me. That makes me uncomfortable. Like I'm staying here. I don't work with people who stay here. There's nothing wrong with staying here, by the way. I'm just not for you. Right? And like really enjoy this amazing thing you've got. If you know that you're in the exact right place, that is a freaking gift. Right? I help people on the journey and they don't want to stay here. And so we acknowledge that as an absolute truth and say, okay, then you don't want an easy life. You want to be the person who's capable of handling hard challenges with ease. And how do you handle challenges with ease? You trust yourself. It is an epidemic. There is a self-trust epidemic. And I absolutely believe it. And I personally, after spending, I'm 36 now, after spending basically 18 years in the professional world, have only finally stumbled into this is my life's purpose, is to be saying stuff like this, to help people with this. Because I am looking at an email I wrote right now on my computer over here, talking about a client in 3 months where my offer is, I don't have a curriculum. How could I? You're the curriculum, right? And that's what I mean. Like coaching and courses and all that stuff is good, but that's a curriculum. And so you need to want to learn the curriculum, not find yourself, right? Because you're learning somebody else's learnings. There's nothing wrong with that. Just know that that's what it is. If you are trying to find the version of your business that sits right with you, coaching is probably one of the worst places you can go for it, because you're going to sign up for somebody else's, right? The trade-off for that is it is so uncomfortable to find what is for you. It's August 2026. Since I left that agency that I took 9 years to build and start again at zero, I have pivoted 3 times. I have said no to over $200,000. Like, could have used the money, but it was the wrong thing. And it was not pivoting and changing because it wasn't working. It was working. It was because I knew, I'm like, if I would ask questions like, what does 6 months from now look like? What does 10 years from now look like? If I'm still doing this 6 months from now, 10 years from now, how will I be feeling? I don't know, but how would I suspect I'd be feeling? And the answer was, you'd feel like this is the master. The business is the master. How much money you're making is the master. You'd feel not in control. You wouldn't trust yourself, but you'd be too afraid to leave because you would have put so much evidence and sunk cost into how capable you are to do it. And you have responsibilities, man. And it is much easier to turn a speedboat than a cruise ship. And that might be where you're at right now. I will tell you right now, it's not impossible at all. And I stand by that. You have the answer to whatever problem you're struggling with right now inside your head. It's just buried behind a locked door under 2 inches of dirt. And my job, for my clients at least, is not to say, here's a new door. That's what a framework is. That's what a template is. That's what coaching is. That's what a course is. Here's a new door. Your door is not good enough. Here's a new door. No, that's not what I do. Again, if you want to learn a new skill, open the new door. That's amazing. If you want to find yourself, you don't need a new door. You already possess it. You already have the key somewhere up here. You just need a fucking broom so you can see it. And that is creating space. That is answering questions that you're afraid to ask yourself. Right? So I tell clients all the time, if you're looking for this to be fun all the time, I'm not it, right? But in so doing, in facing the tough challenges, I say we live in possibility and truth, not imagination and certainty. Nothing is certain. And we can create little stories all the time on why something won't work. So we don't deal in imagination. We don't deal in stories. We deal in what's true, right? For instance, had a client, same client I'm thinking of, little trivial stuff, right? To where best month she's ever had, she earned that, right? And she wanted to take leave. She's getting married next year. Next year. Yeah, 2027. And so she was going wedding dress shopping. And she, while going with her mom and doing all this amazing stuff, like a very memorable type day, right? Going in a perfect world, you're only going wedding dress shopping once, right? It's a memory. It's one of those rare instances where you know, like, this is a day I'll never have again. This is really important. And on that day, was bombarded with clients and staff saying, hey, I know you're out, but can I have 5 minutes? Just 5 minutes. And if you've been a business owner for more than 5 minutes, you know 5 minutes is always 20. And most of the time, that 20 minutes isn't necessary at all because you're the capable one. What's the reward for good work? More work, right? So we don't need to keep doing more work to stop good work. It'll just pile on and pile on and pile on. We need a boundary. So this person was saying a story in their head, and this was the biggest transformation they've had this far. We've only worked together for 3 months, but one of the biggest transformations that trickles down everything else is that she was associating availability with value. The quicker I answer this message, the more valuable I am. The more often I answer these messages, the more valuable I am. And so all I did was ask, is this something you want to be doing 6 months from now on your wedding day? And the answer was no. And I said, okay, who runs your business? Me. Amazing. Wouldn't that be the person who gets to dictate how quickly the messages are responded to? Wouldn't that be the person who gets to decide whether they answer messages on their wedding day or wedding dress shopping day or any other important day in your life? Yes. Would you like some techniques on how to do it? Because I've served 1,200 clients in my marketing career, I've got a couple little things, right? I can give examples on how I've done things, and I say every time, now this has worked for me. It is up to you, right? And I would have you filter it through whatever lens you need, right? It doesn't need to be exactly my way. Whereas in the coaching world or in the template world or in the framework world, it's like, nope, install this thing and shut up and do it. It may still work, but have you learned anything about yourself? No. And we had that conversation 3 weeks ago. We just got on our last session last week. And in that session, she said, I haven't had this much fun in a long time. A long time. And she goes, oh, by the way, I did a couple of the things we talked about and nobody messaged me. She took a week-long vacation, didn't get any messages that she needed to respond to. In fact, she had trained people in the course of 2 weeks via what we talked about to where the people who did message her said, hey, I'm only sending this message because I want it off my plate. I know you're gone. Please don't respond until you come back. She had trained them in under 2 weeks. And that is what I mean by imagination and certainty. We are certain that the story we're telling ourselves is true, and it's not. She had told herself that if I establish a boundary, if I tell them I'm going to be gone, if I don't answer a message immediately, I am less valuable. They're going to leave me. We couldn't see that as an absolute truth. I said, I've experienced the opposite. So at the very least, we have a contradiction here. It's not mine is better than yours or yours is better than mine. It's that we have two completely disparate things that both worked. And you're saying 6 months from now, you don't want to keep doing it this way. So it kind of seems like whether you use mine or a version of or something completely different, we need to at least explore if this is possible. And because she's capable and not a fucking sheep, she did it. And in less than 2 weeks, trained behavior for something that without that space, without that conversation, without trusting herself that even if her worst nightmare was manifested and all the clients left because she established a boundary, even if that would have happened, she trusted herself that she could go get more clients and that she could get new clients with a boundary in place first. And I'm over here saying, why wait? Can we objectively say that we know all your clients will leave you if you just tell them, hey, I'm going on vacation ahead of time and that you'll respond to messages when you get back? It sounds so simple, but the amount of mental load, mental tax, all that sort of stuff with whatever you are giving your imaginary story right now. If all that was wiped clean and you only focused on absolute truths, I'd wager you'd get some self-trust in you. And from self-trust, everything trickles down. This same person, again, what would it take for you to absolutely trust yourself 90 days from now, or at least trust yourself 10% more, 15% more, 20% more? What would that do for you? Right? Whether it's me or somebody else, like I'm very clear. All I do is I hold space for a highly capable person, ask them questions that they're afraid to ask themselves. And then whenever they give me the answer, hold them accountable to the answer. Root for them, cheer them on, say, you got this, because it's a genuine belief of you are the best person for this, right? I tell them, look in the mirror and say, you're the best one equipped to do this. It's your life. You get this. You got it, right? And the coolest thing about this, when you actually start, even if you don't believe it and you just start acting on absolute truths and you just start acting on, yeah, I am the best person equipped for this, at least to take the first step or whatever. When you start taking those actions and it doesn't explode, not even does it work, and it doesn't explode, you're like, what? And I'll give you an example. When I didn't trust myself, I was suffering from the same thing that this client was. This was back in 2022. And I was averaging 21.8 hours per week just in meetings. 21.8 hours was being given to other people at minimum. And that's the average. Some weeks I had 30 hours a week in a meeting. So yeah, I burnt out, right? And the evidence that was created right after I made a change was insane to me, and it became addictive, much like my client is experiencing in a small scale. What I did was I sent an email, BCC'd every client. I was managing like 65 clients at the time, BCC'd them all and said, hey, this monthly call, it was in the contract. right? I need your confirmation. But this call that's in the contract that you get every month takes an hour. I am going to switch that to a weekly 3-minute Loom video, and we won't do meetings anymore. We'll trial it for 2 months, and if the results are worse, we'll go back. We already have this. We'll go back. Sent that one email on like February, maybe it was January, I can't remember, in 2022 or 2023. Not a single client complained, didn't lose a single client, and clients actually got better results because they didn't want to be on hour-long meetings either. They would watch a 3-minute Loom video, and in that video, I would say, here's what I'm watching right now, here's a big win, and here's something I recommend. And then I would leave like an Easter egg word, and they would respond with the word, and I knew they watched it. So they were paying attention. So the results got better by doing less. If my imagination would have continued to tell me, no, the value is in availability, the value is in being with them for an hour, the value is in talking, I would have never seen the truth, which was, no, they actually just want like a specific thing, not a bunch of things, right? And over time, it became obvious. I'm like, yeah, they're basically only really paying attention, like fully focused on an hour-long meeting for about 5 minutes anyway. Whether I knew it or not at the time, I trusted myself. This was a conversation I had in my head. I was like, if they get pissed off, I will handle it. I am capable of handling that. I've had 1,000 clients up to that point. I can handle a lot of personalities. Didn't happen. And so that is the cool thing, is when you trust yourself to take the first action, you can even see in the future and say, this negative thing could happen and I will handle it then. But you probably won't have to, because that was the underlying truth buried under those 2 inches of dirt that you couldn't see the whole time. And so if you are highly capable right now, if you are making more money and you are not having fun, it is not in the next shiny object. It is not in the next skill. It is not in making more money. It is not any of those things. Those are byproduct that feel fucking amazing when you trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, thank goodness my camera's overheating right now so I can end this video. If you don't trust yourself, find a room where you can be fully vulnerable and get a bunch of questions asked at you by someone you trust, right? Full trust. If you're still with me, you can find a link on how to do that down below. If not, thanks for being here. I genuinely believe, whether it's with me or without me, find trust in yourself. You spend every second of your life with you. Make that the person you trust the most. Thanks for being here. I don't know when I'll be doing another video, but I know another one will be coming. So we'll see you in the next one.